Okay, recording in progress. So, okay, Boker Tov, everybody who is here in person. Boker Tov to those of you on Zoom. It's been, I said last night in the Tanya class, it seems like it's been a few months since we've been together. But Baruch Hashem, it is, we're back together and in person, which is really nice. For those of you on Zoom, I'm muting everybody, but feel free to open up your mic if you need. Okay, we are on page, the booklet, page 74. Let's call it a booklet, in the small version, page 74. But what we are dealing with is, I'll tell you, we'll give background, but paragraph starts, Ve'omnam ge'im ka'ele. Ve'omnam ge'im ka'ele, in chapter 11, far in. Sorry, I'm cutting to that. That's okay. I'll give you a little background again where we're holding, but first, as always, today's learning is the Ilu Nishmat Avigdor Chai Avram and also for Refuah Shlema from Mindel Rezel Bat Tzvia. Shvia Refuah Shlema, of course. And before we started, Rhonda was mentioning that Bezrat Hashem, a week from this Shabbat, there will be right here across the street, Nasat Sefer Torah, in memory of Abraham, Zichrono Livracha, and then a week from Sunday, on May 8th, there will be an Azkara at Amit Boys in his memory. It will be Mincha and Azkara and Mariv, and so information will be coming out, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, where are we holding? Again, in chapter 11, this very long chapter, one of the most fascinating chapters from my perspective in all of Mesilat Yesharim, where we've been talking about the topic of Nikiut. Again, the word cleanliness doesn't cut it, but that's all the word I got. But it means, again, that we know the big stuff. It's the little things that get in our way. It's the little things that are the derivatives of problems that we may do or cause that we have to be aware of. And the last thing, one example is, of course, to say theft. Most people don't steal in the sense of putting your hand in someone else's pocket and taking their stuff, or walking to the makolet and removing something that's not yours. I had a student ask me yesterday. He was serious. He said, okay, forget the context. If I don't walk out from a makolet with something, I take it and I throw it out the door. Is that considered stealing? I said, what do you think? He says, no. I said, why not? Because I didn't take it. I didn't walk out with it. I said, okay, we have a lot to talk about. He was serious. Okay, in any case. So we said this, but even though we don't steal per se, but we do things that may cause someone else to lose out, whether it's gezel shena, gezel dad. You steal someone's sleep. You literally steal their mind, but make them think something that's not true. Home and many other things that are really financial issues as well. And the last topic we're in the middle of had to do with ga'ava, or haughtiness. Someone who is very, better word than haughtiness. I wrote it down here. Arrogance. Arrogance is the word I was trying to come up with the last class. I just couldn't, it wasn't in my head, so I wrote it down afterwards. Arrogance. You know, again, there's a very big difference. It's important to know a very big difference between being proud and being full of self-pride, of you're full of yourself. You should be proud of what you do. By the way, I learned a very interesting thing pedagogically, I think, and I use it. You know, very often a child does something, we say, oh, I'm so proud of you. And that's great, but you should add a sentence. You should be so proud of yourself. It's not just that the adult or the person says, like, I'm proud of you, but you're instilling in that child a feeling of self-pride. Again, not to the point, oh my gosh, that's better than Picasso, right? And give this child this inflated feelings of themselves, because that leads to ga'ava, which is what we're talking about now. And he talked already about a couple different types of people with ga'ava, and we're going to talk about one more now. It says ve'omnam. We talk about these fakers, people who put on airs and pretend that they're, you know, oh, I'm a nobody, I'm nothing, please. There are plenty of obstacles that come in front of them. Eventually, it's going to be revealed, their level of arrogance. Like flames that come out between the coals. What does that mean? He's going to give us a mashal or a parable, but it also means if you've ever had a barbecue, if you've ever made a medura, you think the fire's out, and then all of a sudden it flares up again. Same idea. He says that it looks like it just a pile of coal, and all of a sudden things seep out, meaning the arrogance comes out, even though he's trying to hide it. The Chachamim gave us a mashal, a parable. Mashal avayit malei teven, a house that was filled with straw. Vayaba bait chorin, vayaha teven nichnas b'hem, and the house had a bunch of holes with straw stuck into them. Lachar yamim, after some time, hinchilo to teven shaya betoch otam chorim yotzei. So slowly, the teven, the straw, starts to seep out of those holes. Yadu hakol ki hayauto habayit shel teven. Everyone knew that house was just a house of straw. Meaning that if you don't know someone, let's say you sit down next to someone on a train or a bus, and they start talking to you, and they tell you a little bit of their life story because it's a long ride. You don't know if they're telling you the truth or not. You don't know if they're making up stories. You don't know. And by the time you get off the train or the bus, you could walk away with the impression this person, they've accomplished plenty, they're very important, maybe. But if you really got to know the person after time, that false facade, no matter how hard they may try to hide it, falls away. Now, it's not true just with arrogance. It's true in many areas in life, that people that appear to be very smart, when you really scratch below the surface, they're not very smart. They may have put on this front. They may think that there's big Talmud Chacham, or they know so much about this particular topic. It's amazing how there's certain people who think they know a lot about everything, and are afraid to say, I don't know. And I've said this many times. One of the greatest things that Rashi ever taught us was to say, I don't know. Rashi, brilliant master without whom we could not understand Chumash, Tanakh, couldn't understand Gemara, just the basics even. Once in a while says, Eineni yodea, I don't know. I did have wasn't a teacher, an informal teacher who once told me that Rashi did know when he ever said he didn't know. It's just he didn't have a basis, a source to prove it. And therefore he just said, Eineni yodea. That's even better. That's even better if that's true. But I don't know how he knew that. Eineni yodea. Continuing, so too here. They will not be able to always hide themselves, meaning their true colors. And their evil thoughts will become apparent or clear through their actions. But the way they portray themselves and they act, I love those words. With false humility and with twisted or fake lowliness, meaning nobody, I was never anybody, I can't be anybody, blah, blah, blah. It's those kind of people, by the way, that you know almost always are full of themselves. When they go out of their way to say, oh, please, I'm a no. If someone gives a compliment to an individual, they say, oh, it's nothing. I'm not talking about that. They don't want to maybe receive the compliment, or they don't know how to deal with the compliment, whatever it might be. But a person who's always, by the way, did you see my name up there on the building? That's nothing. It's just some letters. What am I? Nobody. It comes out. It becomes very obvious after time. And there's other types of haughty or arrogant individuals that they really stuff their haughtiness and their arrogance deep down, buried in their hearts. It never really comes out. That they are brilliant, that they know everything, the truth of everything, know everything. There's no one smarter than them. I actually know someone who truly believes this. And they're not faking it. And they'll be the first to tell you. I won't say which country, I won't say male or female, but truly believe that they are smart. I'm saying they because that's poor English, but it leaves it amorphous here, I guess. They truly believe that they're smarter than everybody. And they're better at everybody than anything else that they may do. Whether it's sports, Torah, he or she is the best. Just ask him. But they don't tell you that, no, he tells you, so it's not this category, but this category means someone who just thinks this. It's somewhere deep inside them. Alkein lo yashitu lev al divrei zulatam, b'chashvan ki ma shekasha lehem lo yanakel achirim, ma shesichlam mareh lahem kol kach barur hu, kol kach pashut hu, asher yachushu l'divrei acholkim alehem rishonim imachronim v'safek ein etzlam al svaratam. B'kitzur, what this last part of the paragraph means. Someone may try to tell them something different than they believe. By the way, that's not how you make kiddush. By the way, that's not how you wrap the tefillin. That's not how you're supposed to talk to somebody. I know, you're right. But inside they're thinking, give me a break. You think I don't know that? They're wrong. It's very humbling when you're in a position to suggest to people when they're doing something not right and you want them to change or to do something a little different, and they come back and tell you that you're wrong about it. What do I mean? There have been many rabbis, teachers, who, specifically rabbis, I've known over my lifetime, who have been destroyed by their self-pride, that they think that they're the most important person in the room, because after all, they are the representative of God himself, and they are God's gift to humanity, and especially to Judaism, and their knowledge of Torah is unparalleled. Unfortunately, there are people like that, and there are rabbis like that, where it becomes apparent is when a rabbi specifically will tell somebody something like, what's the halacha for blah, 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 and he'll say, and then he's challenged, hopefully in a nice, respectful way, and then finds out that what he said was wrong. How does he handle that? How does he handle that? I learned from very, very good people. I truly did. What it means to say you're wrong. You have to know how to say you're wrong. It's an art. Because if you say, well, there are those who say what you say is right, but I still think I'm right, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. Just this past Shabbat, and I'm going to say this, I say this with humility. I mean it. I promise you know me better than just say, well, look what I did. But it's an example. Someone made a comment to me about something a halacha having to do with Hagba. It only works for Ashkenazim because Sfaradim it wouldn't apply anyways. And Hagba is different. It's a different Sefer Torah. It's before the Kriyat Torah, not after. And I said, I don't think that's right. Matter of fact, I don't think it says that anywhere in Shulchan Aruch. He says, well, it does. He says, it says it in the halacha of blah, blah. I said, okay, I'll look it up. And before I could look it up, Motzei Shabbat, he already sent me a link to it. I said, oh, excellent. So I messaged him. I said, thanks. You taught me something. This is great. This is the whole point of Torah. Torah is about it's not a matter of I'm right and you're wrong. Torah is about truth, seeking the truth. And if you don't seek the truth, and it's because it's about you, and it's not about the Torah, then you've missed the boat completely. So I told him, this is great. I'm so happy I learned this from you. Now I'll know it. And this is always going to be something I associate this halacha with you. And when I tell somebody in the future, that's on you, right? So we're all teachers in one way or another. And when a person thinks that they have, or a group of people feel they have a monopoly on what Torah is and how to interpret Torah, it's a group of it's a group of people who are just full of themselves. It's a very big problem when you're not willing to listen to somebody else who may be telling you something that you don't want to hear. And the reason you don't want to hear it is not because you don't want to do it, but because you don't want to admit to yourself that you're wrong, because that is a chink in the armor, because you think that you're so almighty and powerful. There's only one thing in this world that's perfect. Only Hashem is perfect, right? Next paragraph. Kol ele toldot ha'ga'ava. All these, he's mentioned how many? 5? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 different types of personalities, all relating to different forms of haughtiness or arrogance. All these are derivatives of ga'ava. Hamishiva ha'chachamim achor. The proper word, I don't like using this word because it has a very bad connotation, but it is what it is. It retards the growth of chachamim. It kind of makes them go backwards. When you havedatam mistakelet. No, it's this. If you have a wall up that you're not willing to say I'm wrong, or teach me when I don't know something myself, or help me understand something better, then you're causing a what's the word? What's this? Oh my God. Huh? No, I'm not serpentine. Let's say messing up, but that's not the word I'm looking for. A messing up of halacha, messing up of Torah, and personality. And there are some students who think they have a little bit of knowledge, and suddenly they're just as smart as the smartest people, right? But they say a little bit of wisdom, of knowledge is a dangerous thing, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. I will tell you, so many people have messaged me with questions. Thank God, I get a lot of questions. But I'd say 10% of the time, where a person will tell me, here's my question, and here's why I think it's okay, which is fine. I don't mind getting that. But when I tell them it's not okay and that their logic is faulty, and I say it in a nice way, I hope, they'll try to argue about it. Once in a while, they end up being right. But they already have this little bit of knowledge that they want to apply case X to case Y, and they're not connected at all. I had someone call me one time in early stages of Corona, and they wanted to do something on Shabbat. It had no impact whatsoever from Corona to make a difference. I'll make up something. They wanted to call their mother on Shabbat morning just to see she was okay. No, it's not a good example, actually. Whatever it was, it had nothing to. They said it has to do with. Oh, what about it's Corona? It's Corona. I said that's not a heter to do everything you want. Yeah, but we do this in shul now because of this. I said, yeah, you're comparing apples and bowling balls. No? Usually the people are pretty okay with when I try to tell them the right way. Usually, if not my problem. Okay, it is what it is. But there are people who they're just learning. They suddenly think that they're the biggest Talmid Chachamim. I heard with my own ears one time. Now, just understand the definition of a couple words I'm going to use. There are different time periods in Jewish history. There's the time of Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Savoraim, and I'm going to hopefully get back to a Jewish history class when I finish Ezra Nehemiah, Bezrat Hashem. And then they came to a time period called the Rishonim, and then now we're in the time period for a number of generations, what are called the Acharonim. Forget what that means and all. So I was in Shalavim, I was learning. This is how much this made an impression on me. This foolishness made an impression on me. It was my second year, and there was a guy in his first year sitting learning. And I was sitting right next to him. The guy came, American guy. And someone came over to him to ask him a question. He said, don't bother me now. I'm learning Rishonim. Now, what his implication was, he was trying to find out what a word meant in the Gemara. So it's like, I'm too important right now because I'm so involved in learning the Rush and the Rashba and the Tosfot. I can't deal with you right now. The gaiva of this individual, it's still stuck with me today. I'm 63, so he's probably 62, right? I wonder how that affected him. This person became. I haven't seen him since then, but it's like I just don't get it because he felt that he was like the greatest Talmid Chacham, and he went around like that too, which is really sad. Regarding all these different types of arrogant individuals, Shlomo HaMelech says in Mishlei that it is an abomination, those who are filled with haughtiness and arrogance. There's another, I'm surprised he actually doesn't bring, there's another sentence, a statement that says, Ani v'hu lo yecholim ladur b'kfifa achat. I think that's the expression. Something to the effect of God says, I and he cannot live in the same environment. God says something like that, you got to listen. Well, you got to listen to everything God says, but especially something like that. Anyone who wants to really reach a level in nikiyut has to really work on this idea and cleanse himself of any kind of ga'ava. What is ga'ava? What is haughtiness and arrogance? It's blindness. That you don't see your own faults. What's one of the problems with ga'ava? It's a very important statement here. It's not just that it's a bad character trait. Oh, he's so full of himself. She thinks she's the most important thing. It's one thing, but it also puts a wall up between you and truth. And you can't see your faults. And when you can't see your faults, you can't fix anything if you think you're perfect. And that's a huge problem. Imagine chas v'shalom when someone breaks their arm. And it's walking around, it's just like it's hanging. They can't do anything with their arm. And someone says, I think something's wrong with your arm. No, what are you talking about? My arm's fine. It's great. No one in their right mind would say that guy's normal, right? He doesn't see this fault. He doesn't see this problem. But when it comes to how we relate to each other and himself, his midot, Hashem, and everything else, we overlook it. We think, okay, he's full of himself, but it's more than just being full of himself. Because if he could see the truth, he would turn away and distance himself as fast as possible from all these evil ways. He'd go far away. He says, I'm going to talk about this topic again when we talk about anava, humility. By the way, there's no word humbleness. I hear people say it. It's humility. Because it's so difficult to acquire the character trait of humility. It's one of the last things you're going to do in the book. And when Rabbi Pinchas is the basis of the right of Rabbi Pinchas, that this step brings you to this step, and this brings you to this step. Anava is one of the last things. Kedusha is the last. Anava, it's one of the last three. So it's not so easy to become humble. Here he's telling us that gava is one extreme, right? Humility is the other extreme. Gava people is a big mikshol. It's a big problem. It causes a lot of tripping up. But to get to the other extreme, to be really, truly humble, I'm not talking fake humility. That's the whole point here. This is about fake humility. Fake humility is gava, but truly feeling humble. You're allowed to be proud of what you do. You're not allowed. You should be proud of what you do. You should be proud of how you are, whether it's as a parent, as a teacher, as a worker, as a whatever, as a spouse, anything. You should be proud of it. But it shouldn't be full of pride and haughtiness and arrogance. So I'm going to read something to you. Where is it? Here. Here we go. Where did I put it? Sorry, 1 second. Give me a minute. Screenshots. Here we go. Got it. Okay. Chochma b'goyim ta'amin. We're told that if you hear something that is wisdom or wise, even though the source may be non-Jewish, believe it. You're allowed to take wisdom from non-Jewish people. Whatever you think about William Shakespeare, whether he was a good person, not a good person, maybe he did write everything he's claimed to have written, didn't, immaterial. He was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant individual who also had a tremendous amount of chokhmah. He had the ability to tell us things in very brief words, albeit in Old English or different English that we're used to. And you have no idea, unless maybe some of you do, you go online and check how many dozens and dozens of words and phrases we use to this day that are directly attributable to William Shakespeare. In the play I love Shakespeare. I had in 11th grade and 12th grade, 2 teachers in a row that were absolutely fantastic in English and in literature. And we did Hamlet and we did Macbeth first and then Hamlet. And my senior year did Hamlet and I loved it. There is a soliloquy. A soliloquy is when one individual is speaking to the audience or to an individual, but it's not a conversation. He's speaking by himself. And immaterial of the context right now, let me close this for a minute. I'm going to read to you from Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 3, where Polonius is speaking to someone named Laertes. And I'm going to be coming back to the text in a couple minutes, and you'll see why I'm even mentioning this. Okay, I will read it. For those of you not aware, there's something called No Fear Shakespeare. No Fear Shakespeare has the text on one side, and the facing page is normal English. So I'm going to read it to you a little bit of both. Let's see. There my blessing with thee, and these few precepts in thy memory. He's giving him some advice as he's departing from this person Laertes. Look thou character, give thy thoughts no tongue. What does that mean? You don't have to say everything that comes into your mind, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them unto thy soul with hoops of steel. Those people who you found to be trustworthy, true friends, bring them closer to you. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment. Don't get involved in things that are a little shady dealing, let's say. Of each new hatched, unfledged comrade, of any new person you may meet, beware of entrance to a quarrel. Be very careful not to get into arguments. But when you do get into an argument, bear it that the opposed may be aware of thee. Be very knowledgeable that you may be in an argument, you think you got the upper hand, but that person may know better than you and may be able to come against you somehow. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. I love that line. Be aware, be available to people, listen to people, but you don't have to say everything. You don't have to be the ones going around talking. You need to be more in the listening than the talking. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. If people tell you, you got to straighten up, do this a little differently, accept it. But you shouldn't be so quick to judge other people. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, gaudy. You should spend good money on clothing, but it doesn't have to be show-offy. And here's where expression comes straight from here with you say the clothes make the man. For the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station are of most select and generous chief in that. Fine. Neither a borrower nor a lender be. And borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, this is his final line to Laertes. Thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not be false to any man. Farewell, my blessings season this in thee. Polonius gives what could be said as a bit of a summary of some of Mesilat Yesharim. This is a couple hundred years before Mesilat Yesharim is written. I have no idea if the Ramchal ever saw the works of Shakespeare. I don't mean physically the plays, but the works, the physical work. I have no idea. But there are many, many things that are said specifically in Hamlet that have a direct connection to this. One of the things it talks about in his soliloquy is the idea of being careful with your words, being careful with your actions. And that's really what we've been talking about. But what we're going to talk about even more, that is a topic very near and dear to me, is anger, as we're going to come to next, with a bit of introduction. I know that a number of you are aware of, and some may read, the Iggeret HaRamban. The Iggeret HaRamban, a very, very short little, it's in English called an epistle, E-P-I-S-T-L-E, written for his son. Ideas, thoughts that he was told he should read every day. It starts with the word Shema b'ni musar avicha v'al titosh Torah imecha. Now, think about for a moment, if you were going to write, say, 2 pages of ideas or advice for your child that you were going to want that child to read every day. You could think in your mind, I'm not going to go around polling the studio audience, but we would all have a general idea. What would we like to give as advice to our own children? And of all the things the Ramban starts with and gives advice to his child is, don't get involved in anything that could get you angry. Don't become angry. Ka'as. He talks of a percentage of the Iggeret HaRamban is a giant, it's only a few lines, but the percentage he spends on ka'as, on anger, is huge, because he's very well aware that what ka'as can do, what anger can do to an individual, it can change them. I was in, where was I? I was in Supersol a couple weeks ago. Shalom Neda. I hate shopping. And my wife is on and she can hear that too. She knows it. And I was standing waiting for Andy, for my wife. And I was standing about halfway down the middle of the store, and I hear someone screaming in bad Hebrew. And I kind of look and I see somebody who I personally know that is generally a super calm, cool, collected individual. I'm not talking yelling, screaming at a manager. What the issue was, I didn't even understand. I didn't know, but really going at them. And I'm thinking actually about this. What kaas, what anger is doing at that moment to that individual, I could see physical changes in this person that I'd never seen before in this individual. And I've known him for a number of years, not my whole life. What kaas can do, many of you are familiar with the idea that the Torah, it talks about that Hashem gets, quote, angry, even though God doesn't have emotion. It's just talking, Kilshom Adam. It says, Vayichar apo, Vayichar af Hashem. Literally means that his nose burned, right? Or he got angry. Why the nose? Well, we even say in English, his nostrils were flaring. Do you know that they have proven, I need to find it, I saw it in print once, I have to find it, that physiologically, when a person gets angry, one of the first places physiologically it affects is the tip of the nose. So Vayichar af Hashem makes perfect sense. Why is this so near and dear to my heart? This next paragraph, really, one or two paragraphs. It's very short. Some of you were present at Pnei Shmuel a few years ago when I gave a talk on Shabbat Shuvah, which was called From Anger to Serenity. And it was based, and I'm going to give that talk next week, Bezrat Hashem again, because I think it fits in here, because it's based on this paragraph we're about to do. And not only is it based on this paragraph, it's based on one word. I'm not going to tip my hand today. You'll see next week, Bezrat Hashem. But it's based literally on one word. This entire speech came as a result of a single word in this text. And it's near and dear to my heart because I used to have a massive problem with anger. For those who know me today and didn't know me many, many years ago, although it wasn't generally seen publicly, it wasn't that I was, I just very short fuse and very little patience in life. And thank God, I would say I'd gone to the other side, gone to the bright side instead of the dark side. And certain things happen. I'll tell the story. Certain things specifically happened in my life that caused me to wake up. It was a true wake-up call that if I continued down the path I was in, I would probably end up dead or in jail. Ad kadei kach. So if I piqued your interest a little bit, yes, that's good. And over time, I have found, and I've recognized in people similar issues with not just anger, which is itself a problem, but short fuse and lack of patience. Lack of patience, and why did this happen to me, and why did God do this? And so, with your permission, next week, you don't need your text. I'm going to give that talk because I think it's important. No matter how many times I've given it, I've given it 3 times. Twice in Israel, once in the United States. No, once in Israel, twice in the United States. Whatever, makes no difference. I've given it a few times because I enjoy this talk. Because I think it's important for me personally, because the world revolves around me, because I'm really so humble. You have no idea how humble I am. The humblest of all. Moshe Rabbeinu, nothing on my humility. But I like to do it for myself, but I also like to hear it for others to hear it, because I think it could be helpful. Even if a person doesn't have a problem with anger, it is something that we all know people who do have issues with anger. So let's read this next paragraph. Now he says, I want to address the topic of anger. And he's going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4 kinds of people. So I guess it's 4 paragraphs. 4 kinds of people, different types of anger, because anger is not the same for everybody. There are some people who are so angry individuals, such angry people, that they say about this individual, a person is such an extent, is such an angry individual, it's as if through his anger, he's worshiping idols. And we'll have to see what that really means. I mean, can you really say, if I'm sitting here screaming my head off at you and I'm angry at you, that it's like I'm worshiping an idol? Ad kadei kach, the worst possible sin you could do? How do I know it's the worst possible sin? How do I know? Because we know, we have a concept that machashava tova HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa d'maaseh. If I have intention to go and do something for someone today, and something gets in the way and I can't do it, then I had the good intention, but real intention to do it. Something came up. Hashem says, it's ki'ilu you did it. Machashava ra'ah. But a bad intention, I plan, you know what? When I go to the Bankol today, I'm gonna grab a candy bar. Mickey's never gonna know. But I don't do it, it doesn't count, with one exception. Avodah zarah. Even if I think I'm gonna bow down to an idol, but really think I'm gonna do it, not like, hey, what's it gonna be like to bow down to an idol? Even if I don't do it, it counts as if I did it. Ad kedei kach. Because that's a complete and utter rejection of God. So you're telling me the kas is ki'ilu oved avodah zarah? We'll have to discuss that. He gets angry about anything that doesn't go his way. He gets filled with anger. To the point where his heart is no longer even with him, and he's like on flames, in a sense, on fire. The word bal, bet lamed. I don't know how many, I'm going to say this, I'm blue in the face. I've been trying to say it for years. Mi chamocha ba'al givurot umi domelach. It's not mi chamocha ba'al givurot. Mi chamocha ba'al givurot means you are so amazing, you have no power. Ba'al means without. Ba'al means you have shlita, you own something. So here you're at the point where you're out of, we say he's out of his mind. In modern English, he would say he's yatsa me'eshtinotav. He's gone out of his mind. If you're in the yeshivish world, he's out of his kalim. Okay? I don't know where that even comes from, but that's what they say. This kind of a person, he could destroy the entire world out of with the anger if he could. His rationale, his mind doesn't rule him at all. He's become no different than the animals, a predator animal. And about him it says in Iyov, you who tear your soul because of anger, should the earth become desolate. It's obvious, it should be obvious, that it'd be very simple to go against and do some averot when you're in this kind of state of mind. If his anger brings it to him to that point. There's nothing preventing him. There's nothing else driving him. He's being driven by anger. Wherever his anger takes him, he will go. We know that the expression, we know that very well. The path by which person chooses to go. It says that the Marshas in Shabbat, I think, says that they will take, meaning Malachim will drag you. You want to go down that road? Free choice. Go ahead, go for it. In this case, when a person is out of their mind of anger, they lost their free choice. It's their kaas that's driving the boat. Okay? Bezrat Hashem, like I say, next week, it's specifically about this paragraph. I'm going to talk about the topic of anger, not in the text, and hopefully you'll be able to gain something from that. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Godspeed. And yes, Mark.
You can tell us the keyword.
I can tell you the keyword. Yes, it's one of the words between this cover and that cover. Yeah. Do you know there's a famous line with Dan Rather? It was not Dan Rather, I think was no. Mike Wallace was interviewing Arafat. Arafat, there's one other these wonderful giants of wisdom, and he's on live TV. Well, it wasn't live. It was for 60 minutes, yeah. And it was interviewed. He said, "Look, just between us, tell me blah blah blah." And he said something that he would only have been really said if it was private. Just between us, only 5 million other people listening. Wasn't the giant genius, right? Okay. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Be well.